talked about, like I said, in our shorts, but to me, this is the guy that is the best. He's a wide receiver one playing as the number 2 wide receiver on his team. And that's Jaylen Waddle. And that's Jaylen Waddle. It's obvious, but you can't argue that. The guy's a freak. So, I mean, Jaylen Waddle last year ended up finishing as the wide receiver 7 in standard scoring. So he was a top 10 scoring receiver. He had 18.1 yards per reception. The guy's a 1,000-yard receiver. His touchdowns, I think, are going to go up too. I think because no team is going to want to give up 1,700-yard season to Tyreek Hill again. And Waddle and Hill have missed times here and there, but both have been relatively sturdy for the most part. But you can't. This is a guy that you can go early on running back and grab Waddle. Now you're going to have to grab him in the second round, late second round. That's
what I was going to say.
But why go for Tyreek Hill in that first round unless you love Tyreek Hill and you really want him on your team?
Yep. Oh.
When you can get, you could, but you can get a running back that you want and solidify that spot in your league and then go get yourself Jaylen Waddle and know that you have a top 10 wide receiver that you just got in the second round. Because people are still going to be drafting Devontae Adams ahead of him. People are still going to be drafting, possibly even DK Metcalf ahead of him, Garrett Wilson ahead of him probably, because people are going to want the number 1 wide receiver on that team. What little you know is you have a guy that has freak athletic ability. And unlike Tyreek Hill's getting a little bit older. He's good at those barn burners, put the top off the defense, catch a deep pass. Jaylen Waddle has been a guy that just catches the ball in space, and they script him to find space, and he just takes it and he's gone. And he could do that multiple times a game, and he showed it last year. So this is, I've staken him because I have him as a keeper in my league for 1 more year, but I'd still be targeting him in that second round, even if I didn't have him as a keeper, because he is a wide receiver 1 that is being tricked to not be that because of who's ahead of him.
Yeah, I think that's a great valuation of him is he's a second round receiver. I love Tyreek Hill this year too. And if Waddle was there, I would love to grab him too. There are certain situations where, depending on the value that's there, getting both of them is not bad. The only reason I like T. Higgins a little bit better than him is who's throwing the football. If Tua stays healthy, Waddle and Tyreek are going to put up massive numbers. This offense is very good. They're a big play offense. But if anything happens to Tua, again, we've talked about Mike White being there as a backup, and I think he can sustain that offense to be still productive. Waddle's a guy I absolutely love, though, because you're right. He can take that 5-yard slant and take it to the house. He has explosive ability. They use him all across the formation. He's a guy I would love to have.
Sorry, quick technical difficulty. Chris, we got you back here. Continue talking about what you were at with Jaylen Waddle.
So I absolutely, I would want both of these guys, Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle. I think Jaylen Waddle is a guy, like you said, he can take a 5-yard slant and take it to the house. And he's involved all across the formation on this team. So it depends on where you're going to get Tyreek Hill. If you have access to get him in the middle of the first round, and that's a guy you'd love to have. But if you're in the back end of the first round, Tyreek's not going to be there for you. That's a guy you can easily go and snag a running back in the first round, and then on the swing get Jaylen Waddle in the early second round. I don't think Waddle's going to make it at the back end of the second round to a lot of people. So if you're in the top 3 picks, you're probably not going to get either one of these guys, which is a travesty because I'd love to have one of those when I end up getting the first overall pick, but I'm probably not going to have that opportunity. But if you're sitting pick 9, 10, 11, 12, you're probably going to have access to go and getting either one of these guys. And it's a matter of who you'd rather get. Would you rather have a Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs in the first round and go get Waddle in the second? Or would you rather have Tyreek in the first and get Aaron Jones or Tony Pollard in the second? And that's going to be kind of those are realistic players, I think, that you'd be able to get at either one of those positions. So it's a matter of what you'd rather like. I think that I value Tyreek over Waddle but they're right there. Like I would not be
Yeah.
mad at either one of these guys.
I mean, the biggest difference, and you said it earlier, is it does matter who is throwing him the ball. I can argue the other way though too, but it definitely does. If you look at, there were 4 games last year where Tua was completely out, and that was weeks 5 and 6. That was the Jets and Minnesota, and that was weeks 17 and 18, and that was New England and the Jets. So 2 tough games against the Jets twice. Tyreek Hill, 55 yards against New England week 17 without Tua, 23 against the Jets without Tua. I think Waddle was 50-something and 40-something respectively. And then you look at Tyreek Hill weeks 5 and 6, he had 7 for 47 against the Jets. I mean, that was a tough defense to play on anyway. But then against Minnesota, both guys, Tyreek he went 12 of 15 for 177. And Waddle went 6 of 10 for 123 or 126. So it does matter, but I do, like you said, Mike White has shown he could sling that rock around. As long as these are 2 guys that it's very different type of wide receiver where they create separation with speed, and when they get the ball in the open, their speed takes over. And that's the one advantage you have of getting these guys, which is why I'm a little less concerned about who's throwing them the ball as I would other wide receivers. And so Tua healthy, not healthy, I think this is going to be a fiery offense that you want a piece of, and getting either of these guys would be great. You just know that you don't have to reach for Hill or hope he falls to you, and you can plan on getting Waddle in the second round and be happy with the running back you get in the first, or quarterback, whoever it may be.
Here's the tricky thing. Like if you're in the position like 5, 6, 7, I don't think you're going to get either one of these guys. Like that.
No, you would have to in the second round,
Hill.
or well, if you're 5, 6, 7, you'd either have to draft Hill if he's there, or in the second round grab Waddle before it gets to the end of the second round.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think Waddle's going to last that long in the second round.
You never know. I mean, again, we're talking about
like you said. Like I think that there might be some situations where DK goes over him, AJ Brown goes over him, and I'd probably take those guys.
Well, and
Waddle too.
right now on Sleeper, Waddle's 21st overall, so that's end of the second round.
Yeah,
and he's got Devontae Adams over him, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, all those guys, and there's a slew of wide receivers going ahead of him. And when you look at it, you got still Nick Chubb. I mean, they have Pat Mahomes going ahead of him on here, Travis Kelce, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Bijan. There's a lot of players for you to get all the way to 21, and that's if you value Waddle at 21. You may value Garrett Wilson above him, like I said, Tony Pollard above him, Jalen Hurts above him. So he may fall down to that second round. But again, if you're like 5, 6, 7, you can take your shot at him in the second round and be happy with it too. So
if I'm in 9, 10, or 11, and Tyreek's still there, I'm going to load up on both these players.
You wouldn't be. I mean, you wouldn't be in a bad position. You would. I mean, what did Tyreek finish last year? Is what was he? Wide receiver 3, and then you would have wide receiver 7. And there were multiple games where they went for 100 yards each, and there were multiple games that even if one didn't go for 100 yards, the guy had the touchdown. So you're taking complete stock in yardage and touchdowns going to 2 guys.
Well, that's what I was going to say with the Bengals and with the Dolphins. They're having both of these guys on your team is not a bad idea. They both can produce in the same game. Like I think some of these other guys that we're going to talk about, you did see a lot of the splits where they weren't, the wide receiver 1 was involved with one game, then the wide receiver 2 was involved in another game, but they kind of disappeared in the games that the other guy was on. Mm-hmm. With T. Higgins and Chase, and with Waddle and Hill, but there are games where both of them go off. Yeah, and you'd love to have a piece of that, especially when both of them do go off.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's not. I mean, I thought about possibly doing that last year, because I had Waddle as a keeper. I thought, why don't I just pair the 2 together, because it could be very explosive. I just didn't have the balls to do it. So, well, let's talk about another